Swin Cash, I call her Swin Cash. Swin Cash, I call her Swin Cash. Swin Cash, I call her Swin Cash. Swin Cash.
Hey, what's up, y'all? Welcome to another edition of She's Got Time. I appreciate you joining us. As you know, I never take it for granted. This is episode 7. We're going to call this one See Me. At the top, you know, I always like to give you our handles to make sure you are following us on all our social media platforms. So remember, on Twitter, on Instagram, Facebook, it's She's Got Time. Also, we have our YouTube channel as well, She's Got Time. Make sure you're hitting the like button, make sure you're subscribing, and make sure you're following us on all those social media platforms. And leaving us some comments, because you know I like to read all the comments. Love your feedback as we continue to grow our show and continue to give you exactly what you need. And also, feel free to email us. If it's a little bit more personal and you want to send us an email, you can do that as well. Our email is swingottime@gmail.com. Again, that's swingottime@gmail.com. Y'all know how we like to start it off from the top. I like to go back to the rewind, the week that was. So, a lot has gone on this week. Let me have a little sip of water right here, because I'm sure from all of the DMs and messages and different stuff that I've gotten, everybody wants me to address this issue with surviving MuteRKelly. So we have our show already kind of mapped out, but I definitely had to address this topic from the top, because it is definitely affecting so many people, and it's in our community right now. And I can tell you right from the top, I have not watched all of the docuseries on surviving MuteRKelly. I would encourage those of you who feel that you want to learn more about it and you want to understand what young African-American females are going through, have been going through. I encourage you to go and watch the docuseries. Now, to do some research, obviously, for this podcast, because I knew I wanted to at least address it somewhat, I did watch a few clips and understood right from that point on. Listen, I already knew that MuteRKelly was trash, and that was for years. And I never wavered from that, especially being somebody that has gone through domestic violence. I understand what it looks like. I believe those young women have for years. And even sometimes when you're found not guilty in court, doesn't mean you're not guilty. And we understand that the system sometimes works for those who need to be up underneath the jail, which is MuteRKelly. But I was actually more, I guess I would say, from years ago and hearing about it through college and all those different things. I was hopeful at this point right now that more people are understanding what young women, not only the women that have been abused by MuteRKelly, but what young women of color have continuously had to go through. And so that's one of the positives that I've taken from this docuseries coming out. It's brought it to the forefront. And y'all know on She's Got Time, I say it all the time, communication is the biggest thing that anyone can do. And sometimes having a huge megaphone that you can yell from the top of the roof, top of the mountains about an issue to get people to wake the hell up can be just as positive. And I think this docuseries, I think his ex-wife, I think the men who have taken ownership to say, listen, for so many years, we have put this issue to the side, or we haven't really addressed it. I love the fact that there are men that are now speaking out about it. I love the fact that there are women and allies who are not Black women who are saying, listen, how can we help? How can we be allies and make sure that you're getting the same visibility, the same acknowledgement about this issue in your community as they do in the white community? That makes me hopeful that at least the dialogue is happening, that there are people who are in positions to help some of these females who are still struggling with this issue right now. So like I said, I have not watched the whole docuseries. I don't know if I will or when I will, but I do encourage you to do it. And why I say I haven't and why I didn't is because, like many survivors who have gone through some form of abuse, which abuse Sometimes people think it's only physical. We talked about this. If you didn't hear it in my podcast early on, please go back. I believe it's like episode 2, but we talked about abuse can be in different forms. It can be financial, it can be physical, it can be emotional. There's a number of ways that you can be abused. And sometimes, even if that abuse happened 2 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, it doesn't mean that you're ready or able to be able to see the abuse that's being done to other people. Some people some people are at different walks in their life. But for me personally, I came into 2019 just on a real high. And y'all know this, last podcast we talked about the overflow, right? I just had this certain energy and this aura around my life right now where I knew that watching that complete docuseries was going to take me into a mental space that I did not want to be in. Now, that's not saying that I am against the docuseries. Absolutely not. That's why I'm encouraging you right now on my podcast to please go and watch it, because it will open your eyes and reveal a lot about what young women of color have gone through, not only at the hands of R. Kelly, which he is completely a monster and disgusting, and I use a number of different words for his actions, and I hope that he gets help, and I hope that he gets exactly what's coming to him, and I hope he's behind bars someday to pay for his crimes. But I do feel that it pulls back the curtain a little bit for people to really see. So that's why I'm encouraging you to watch it. For those of you who are survivors who haven't watched it, you're not wrong. Take your time. Do what you need to do for yourself. You know what space you're in and when you can get there. But what I will say is one of the things that I struggled with and that I wanted to just kind of talk about on this podcast is, I'm not going to lie to y'all. There's some music that R. Kelly has that I love. There's some music and songs, for instance, I'll give you an example. R. Kelly's song, Sweet Sadie, I went back and I actually pulled it back up on YouTube because I wanted to see if the emotional tie I had to that song was still there. Or did I look at it differently through a different lens because of just knowing how trash he is and the things that he's done. And the reality is that song was emotionally tied to me when my aunt passed away from cancer. And I remember my cousins, and I remember after the funeral, and I remember my cousin and all of us bonding over a moment where that song just hit so close to home that every time I heard it, it brought these emotions back to me of not only loving her and my family. It's like when they say music is like food to your soul. So I know there's all this debate that's going on out there, debate that's going on about how do you separate the music from the monster? When people are so artistic, how do you separate the films from the monster that may be producing the films? How do you separate those two things? I don't have the answer for you. I don't know if you can separate them, but I know, because I knew I was going to talk about it on this podcast, that I actually just went back today and listened to the song, and it's still, I could hear R. Kelly's voice and I could hear the tunes and the melody, but it brought back the most beautiful memories in my head and in my soul and in my emotions connected to that time period in my life where I lost somebody that was really close to me, but it made me feel happy. So I saw online when even Jada Pinkett Smith was trying to figure out, how does somebody's music sales go up when such a docuseries comes out? How is that possible? And I was trying to figure out if there was an answer, if there was something there. And the reality is, I don't have an answer for it. But I know that there are some people who may not know about whether it's R. Kelly or his music, who may just saw the docuseries and decided I wanted to go and listen to the music. I don't know how you separate the two, but I know what I felt and the emotions I felt. And I love for you all to send me messages and let me know, where do you stand on this? Because I truly don't have the answers, but I just know I did this test to see how it would affect me. And when I heard those lyrics in that song, To Sweet Sadie, I only have beautiful memories and an emotional feeling that made me feel good about missing somebody that I love dearly. So as we all struggle through this time period right now of it being the new year and dealing with this docuseries and the reality that for so many years there were so many people that were enablers that put young women of color in positions to be taken advantage of or abused, we have to look at what were certain people's culpability in that, but also what can we do now as we move forward? And one of the things that we can do is acknowledge the fact that young women of color do not get the same coverage about this issue, whether if they're kids that run away, whether if they're kids that, if anything's happened to them. We have to stop always asking the media or whoever else, do this for us. Give us the same airtime, give us the same this or give us the same that. We as a people and allies who care about those young girls of color have to start taking ownership in our communities to protect. I'm talking to the men right now too, and then I'm going to talk to the women to protect our young girls. Because when I look in the mirror, I see a young Swin Cash, one of those young girls. That could be me. I look at my nieces and that could be them. We have to take some accountability to make sure that we are now becoming the protectors of our community, the protectors of our young girls and boys. Because if we don't, this continued cycle of abuse could possibly happen. So again, I don't want to go in all the way on that. We're not, this podcast is not about the docuseries Surviving R. Kelly. I'm just encouraging you to please go and watch it if you haven't. Learn more. Figure out where resources are out there, which organizations are helping young girls of color because they need it. Also, one of the other things that I wanted to say is that this whole notion that young girls, I used to hear it all the time where young girls, especially girls of color, they would say, oh, she's mature for her age. Or, oh, you know, she acts older. Or, oh, young girls who come from this area or from the projects are here, they're more promiscuous and this, that, the other. BS. Like, we have to stop putting these stereotypes and allowing these stereotypes to be perpetuated out there, whether it's on the news channels, whether that's on digital, whether that's on different platforms. We have to stop allowing our young girls of color to be boxed in to make it seem like it's okay for anybody to prey on them, to take advantage of them, or to abuse them. It has to stop. It has to stop now. Our men, our women, our allies, people that are out there, take ownership of this. We talk about the girls that have been overseas and the things that happened a few years ago in Africa where the young girls were kidnapped. It is not okay for our young girls to be the target of abuse. And the only way we change that is to stand in the gap, to stand in front, to the side, to the back and say, not our girls. So I encourage you to do that. And I also encourage you to continue to construct and build your season of overflow. We're going to piggyback off of what happened last podcast. We had a lot of energy, a lot of great feedback, and I want to encourage you. You may not have your full plan done for this year. You may not have all your goals mapped out, but let's keep it going. Let's keep it rolling and make sure we stay on top of that, because even with all the nastiness and craziness in the world, we're going to still lift each other up and understand this is our season. We're claiming it regardless of what else is going on. Continue to work on that overflow. So y'all, this is an important part of this podcast that I really wanted to talk to y'all about. And it came to me whenever this week we taped our show called We Need to Talk. And for those of you that are watching on YouTube, you can see this sweatshirt that I have on. It's the logo for the show and it says We Need to Talk. So We Need to Talk, for those of you who don't know, who don't follow me on social media, which you should be following me at Swin Cash. Come on now, get with it. The show is an all-female ensemble of women that are talking about all of sports. And it's been for about 4 years now. It's amazing. I love the fact all female producers, directors, and I'm just happy to be a part of it. But this past week, the show really inspired me a lot because as we talked about how this Surviving R. Kelly docuseries was going on, one of our producers reached out to me. Now, you heard what I just said, like our show, We Need to Talk, is an all sports show. And we talk about sports, but we also talk about different issues that affect sports. And that could be NFL players kneeling, that could be players in the WNBA wearing shirts, NBA players wearing I Can't Breathe, kind of that intersection where it's sports and justice, social justice issues. We will cover that as well. But one of the producers reached out to me this week and she said, Swin, I follow a lot of women of color on social media, and I see how this docuseries is affecting not only these women, but young women of color in the community. I know we're a sports show, but I want to run something by you. And my producer is a white woman. And I said, all right, shoot. She said, I'm thinking about this whole concept of us really kind of standing and for these young women that have been abused, and through this docuseries with Surviving R. Kelly, and give some statistics at the end of our show and just let people know that we're here, we're standing with you, we hear you, we see you, and we want to give you this opportunity to know that. Because at the end of our show, we have a segment that's called We Need to Listen, where we like to shed light, I would say, on different topics in sports like I just talked about. But I thought it was so cool. And here's this conversation where a producer's reaching out to me to get my input about something that's directly affecting my community. But she wanted to say, listen, I hear you. I know this is important for young girls of color, but at the same time, I want other women to know why we should be supporting, why we should be standing in the gap, and why our young girls need to know that we're here. And it's bigger than sports. That was so damn dope to me. Do y'all understand? I already have a level of respect for the producers on our team because they are all about collaboration and we go back and forth all the time. Sometimes stuff makes it, sometimes stuff doesn't. But when people that you work with are not only allies, but they want to make sure that you know that I appreciate that you're in this fight and you talk about these issues. But as somebody's that's in a position to bring light to something and bring it to the airwaves, I want to do that. I'm telling y'all don't understand. When I say all the time about people needing allies, those are the kind of allies that you need. Not just on the issues. Obviously, this is a serious issue of abuse dealing with the Surviving R. Kelly. But on all aspects, when you're talking about social justice, when you're talking about wanting to shed light on issues that affect people in minority communities, you have to have people that are in positions to make decisions to say, I am with you as an ally, I'm standing in the gap, but I'm also supporting and making sure that people hear you and see you like I do. Because there's some people, let me tell y'all right now, there's some of y'all right now that will go have lunch, coffee, and whatever else with somebody who says, oh my goodness, I'm an ally, I support this, that, the other. And as soon as you say, hey, I'm going to organize and do this, or I'm going to put a group together and we like to get some advice and get your opinion, they cannot be found. Hello, somebody hear me out there. Somebody hears me out there right now. I said it on a previous podcast, but I'll say it again as well. You got to make sure you're evaluating the people in your circle. Not only your close friend circle, but your work circle as well. Because for me, this was such a beautiful moment this week to have a producer want to stand in the gap like that. And I wanted to make sure I brought it to light on this show because we need more of that from people in positions that can do that. The reason why I said see me is because we need to start seeing our young girls that are out there that need our support, that are closest to us. If you're a mom, if you're a teacher, if you're a doctor, if you're in sports, if you're in entertainment, if you're at work, if you're at school, whoever listening to this podcast, You have to have the ability to recognize the people around you that may need a little support and a little encouragement, or may need you to give them the real. Not the fluff, but the real about what's going on out here today. There's so many things that can pull you in different directions, but I feel like at times people put stereotypes on people and they don't really see them. Like, I know when I walk in a room, somebody's going to see a 6'1" African-American woman. That is me. I can't change my height. I can't change my race. It ain't gonna happen. And so for us to deny and act like it doesn't matter is ridiculous. It's ridiculous. I love when people say, oh, I don't see color. I don't see color anywhere. Well, I'm like, well, what do you see? Because I hope you see me. Because I'm proud. I should be proud. I should be proud to be an African-American woman. I'm proud of my culture. I'm proud of my heritage. I'm proud that when the water hits my hair, it gets all big and curly. I'm proud I can take a flat iron to it and straighten it out. I'm proud of who I am as a Black woman. And I want younger girls to feel that same pride. But they can't feel it when people are telling them that they're not worthy. When people are telling them they're not smart enough. They're not pretty enough. Their skin's too dark. There's so many different things that young women of color have to deal with, that I want to bring that to the forefront right now for all of my listeners to understand that they are not living and playing by the same rules all the time. So they need a little help. They need a little support. They don't need you to tell them that, oh, you ghetto because you loud. You talking like this. You talking like that. I deal with kids all the time, at-risk kids, some of the kids that grew up in the same hood that I grew up in, where all they need really is a hug. Sometimes I hug a kid and it just changes their demeanor right away, immediately. And so my challenge to all of you out there that are listening to She's Got Time right now is to see me, see little girls, and see them like I see them. And is this to say that I don't see little white girls or little Asian girls? Does that say that? No. It just says that we're at a time right now when we're talking about a docu-series that has basically shows an attack of young African-American girls and girls of color that have gone through all this trauma and continue to go through, and people tend to not care. I'm saying we need to see them and we need to acknowledge them, and we need to make sure that we're supporting them just as much as we're supporting all the other little girls in different races, because they're all beautiful. They all have the ability to be the next, whatever they want to be. I was going to say president. I'm going to leave that alone right now, but they could be whatever they want to be. And we need to make sure that we're encouraging them. We need to understand, like, these young girls need to know their worth, their future, their hopes, their dreams, that there are other people that are out there, the adults in the room that are making decisions, that they care. And that you just don't see the color of their skin as a threat or an opportunity to say, oh, they're more mature than they look, or the size of their body because they have more fully developed body, that they're asking for whatever is being brought to them. Absolutely not. Make sure we're seeing these young girls for who they are, because if you're on YouTube, you're looking at me right now. Yes, I'm a grown woman, but I was once one of those young girls. One of those young girls with these hopes and these dreams in my eyes and aspirations of what I wanted to be. And I had great people around me, great family, great friends, but not all young girls and girls of color have that. And they're preyed upon and they're subjected to these different stereotypes or ideas from media, from magazines, from digital, from bullying, because of the beautifulness of what was given to them by birth. Whether that's big hips, bigger butts, bigger busts, whatever the case may be. We need to see the beauty in our young girls of color in order to tell them, men, to your daughters, mothers to your daughters, uncles, grandfathers, everybody. Pour into these young girls because they need it. So see me is what I'm challenging you all to do. All right, y'all. So now let's roll into the next part of the podcast that I love so much. It's called our Take a Seat, Take a Bow, and Level Up and Straighten That Crown. So for our Take a Seat this past week has to go to R. Kelly. I mean, was that hard to figure out? Yes, he needs to take several seats. And also anybody that's out there trying to explain away why he's a victim, or all these little fake sites that are popping up talking about lying, surviving the lies of R. Kelly. Y'all have to be kidding me, please. Please take a seat. Please move to the left and let everybody else pass by, because y'all are delusional. And I cannot wait until justice is served. So R. Kelly and all of y'all out there that seem to find a reason to explain away all of his transgressions, yeah, y'all could take a seat. Several. Next, our Take a Bow. Our Take a Bow goes to all of my producers at CBS Sports Network. For We Need to Talk, I was so happy to see just how positive you have been, not only through this situation with the Surviving R. Kelly docuseries, but also of me and other women of color that are in a male kind of dominated sport, and you're always looking for ways to not only stand in the gap, but to also be an ally. So thank you for your support. Please take a bow, because that was a great show. Happy to be a part of the cast for We Need to Talk. And lastly, Level Up and Straighten Your Crown has to go to my homegirl, my sis from Detroit. What up, though, to Jamel Hill. If you didn't hear about it, Jamel is launching her own podcast on Spotify called Unbothered. I'm super excited for her. If you know anything about Jamel, if you follow her on social media, she is unapologetically her, and we love that. Known Jamel for a really long time, and she has been one of those women that has always made sure that she speaks her truth. She's able to back it up with facts. And if you don't like what she's saying, she tells you, you can just, exit stage left, or you can unfollow. It's just that simple and that easy. But I'm excited for her because all the things she went through last year, it's just really nice to see her continuing to win. So even when you try to suppress or try to close somebody's mouth, it doesn't matter, because if you are somebody that's unapologetically you will figure it out. And Jamel, just keep winning, sis. I'm so happy for you. Level up and straighten your crown. Now, before we get out of here, let's do our positive note. And our positive note for this week comes from Gandhi. And it says, the future depends on what we do in the present. The future depends on what we do in the present. So what are you doing right here, right now, today, this second, this minute, to be a better you and to make our world better? To make it better for our young girls all over the world, our young boys that are out there, our young boys and young girls of color. What are you doing in this present moment to say, I am being someone that is contributing and not someone that is just taking or only worried about me? Because truly, that's what it's all about. It's about all of us. Make sure you see me. So again, thank you all for joining us on She's Got Time. I never take this for granted. So humble. Make sure you're following us on all our social media platforms. She's Got Time. You know we're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, we're on IG. We got them all covered. But I also need y'all to hit that like button, hit that follow button, hit that subscribe button. Make sure y'all rocking out with us, and we're growing this community because, listen, you know me, it's Swin Cash. She's got time.
Swin Cash, I call her Swin Cash.
Y'all love that beat.
Swin Cash, I call her Swin Cash. I call her Swin Cash. Swin Cash, I call her Swin.